Hello and welcome to episode 108 of From Impossible to Inevitable. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me today and pushing play on today's episode. Today is going to be kind of interesting for me as far as these episodes go. Now, for some reason, I really like to share the behind the scenes of these episodes whenever I have them because it feels, these episodes are pretty raw, right? Like, I don't do a whole lot of editing. It's pretty raw, right? Like, if you met me on the street, you wouldn't be like, oh, it's so much different on the podcast. No, it's exactly the same. So I think this is interesting. This is so interesting. And so I want to share a little bit of the behind the scenes of today's episode. So I knew that I had to record today. Today was going to be recording day no matter what. And so it didn't surprise me. Today is actually a Wednesday. I know this will air on Friday, but this is actually a Wednesday. And so I had time to prepare. I had time to figure out what I was going to talk about. I had time to write some notes. I had some time to think through it. I had time to get some examples, all of those things. I had plenty of time. I knew it was coming. And I am very much led by what do I feel called to talk about? Like, what do I think is most important? What is striking me, right? Because I have totally written out a list of content ideas and then abandoned them at the last minute because something else felt more important. Something else was more on my heart or on my mind. And so I would talk about that. And so I've learned to kind of trust this process that I have created accidentally, that my topic, my inspiration will appear. It will. It always does. It always does. And as I went into this morning, I still had no idea what I was going to talk about, but I had other tasks to complete this morning. And I was like, I don't know, it'll appear. I'll figure it out. It's fine. And so I directed my attention to what I needed to direct my attention on, knowing what my morning looked like, knowing, believing, trusting that this inspiration would come to me, that it would be there and it would feel right and we would go with it and it'd be amazing. Or not amazing, whatever you perceive the podcast to be. Until the moment arrived that I was like, okay, literally, I am ready to clip on my mic, put on my lip gloss, turn the light on, and record. What am I going to talk about? Like, I'm ready. Like, this is the moment. I have to do this now. Where's my inspiration? Like, what has happened? So I settle into myself for a minute. I stop the inner dialogue. I started a 15-minute timer and I sat down and I just sat there. And I was like, okay, what is it that I am meant to talk about? And after probably about a minute, the idea came. And talk about trusting yourself. What? I'm not qualified on that. Let's give me something else. What else do we got? Sit there. Trusting yourself. What? Like I said, I'm not qualified to talk on that. I can't talk about that for 10 minutes, let alone 15 or 20. Something else. Let's think of something else. And it appeared again, trusting yourself. And I was like, okay, well, I've got this timer going. So let me indulge this for a few minutes and see, can I actually talk on this? Can I actually give something of value on this? And so ideas started to come to my mind. Thoughts started to come to my mind. I was like, okay, yes, I get that, but it's not actually valuable. It's not actually something that's helpful. Like, I can see where I've learned to trust myself here and there, but it's not something I can talk about for a length of time. And yet this topic would not go away. And really, truly, literally, the universe was handing me nothing else. The universe was strong-arming me into talking about a topic on trusting myself and encouraging me to do just that. Megan, stand up and trust yourself. What a demand. I mean, come on, it's Wednesday. Let's chill out a little bit. So I don't want to talk about trusting myself because this is intimidating, because like I said, I don't feel qualified. However, I'm working on it, right? So here we are together in this journey, trusting ourselves. So the very first examples that came to my mind about trusting myself, like I said, not huge examples, but these examples are little moments in which I have learned to trust myself. Like when I drive away from the house and I'm like, did I shut the garage? Did I shut the garage? And I'm like, I don't know, did I? And sometimes I double back and I check. And sometimes I just go on and I make a firm decision like, well, I'm trusting myself right now. I'm trusting that I did that. And every time I have turned around or not, the garage has always been closed. Always, 100% of the time, the garage has been closed. So I am more easily able to trust that I closed the garage because I have this history of doubling back to check that I closed the garage. It's actually a kind of a family tradition that whenever we leave for like a trip or an extended period of time, we pull out of the driveway, I close the garage, and then we talk for like 15 or 20 seconds about how the garage is closed. Look at the garage. The garage is so closed. Can you believe that the garage is closed? I close the garage and look, there it is, closed. So that it's in my head and I don't have to worry about it. Okay, I know I get a little extreme, but it eases anxiety, so they indulge my silliness. Okay, there are lots of examples in which you trust yourself. And there's examples in which you don't trust yourself. New situations, new experiences, trying things out for the first time. All of these things can be really scary because you don't know if you can trust yourself to handle it, to do the right thing, to even know what to do, to have the courage to ask questions, there are so many different ways in which you can doubt yourself. And so I feel like trusting yourself is building a habit. It's building a muscle that you continually test. Sometimes you fail, you extend yourself some grace, and you go at it again. As the new year has started and new goals are in full swing, one of the things that I repeatedly come up against with myself and with my friends and other people is when they face a goal, they also have a fear that's coming with them of, can they trust themselves to do their part? Because that's often where we falter. That's often where we fail, is when we don't do our part. So that fear is real. It's a real legitimate fear, because any goal that you've ever set that you didn't reach, it's because of something you did or did not do. You either didn't do the work, or you didn't put in the repetitions, or you didn't stay focused, or you didn't prioritize your time appropriately, or whatever it was. Or maybe you just decided that it wasn't something that was really important to you and you just let it go. That's a thing too. And that's not so much as trusting yourself. That's really actually a higher evaluation of the goal and releasing it. That I feel like fully falls under the umbrella of trusting yourself. But we have let ourselves down. That's just part of it, right? We said we were going to do something. We said we were going to be somewhere. We tried to be on whatever it is, and we didn't do it. And so now we're like, well, I don't want to set this goal, because then what if I don't do it, right? That's a real concern. The power is that you can always choose to do it. You can always choose to follow through. And that discipline and that follow through are habits. They are something that you build. I was talking to some friends about the new year, and I have learned something new about myself, or really, it's a feeling. It's hard to describe, but I'll do my best. Okay. So I was telling them, I got really sick over New Year's. It was like after Christmas, my body shut down. I was super sick. And I did not. Okay, I slept in for 2 days. There were 2 days that I was like dying I wasn't really dying, but I did not feel good. I was sick for probably a week or a week and a half. Anyways, there were 2 days that I did sleep in. I didn't get up and go through my normal 5 a.m. routine. I did sleep in those 2 days. However, when I got up, I ran through that routine. But I was remarking to them that there were days that I didn't feel great. I was coughing stuff up. I was blowing my nose constantly, all of that. And I still got up. I still was on my bike at 5 a.m., running through my morning routine, my exercise, my meditation, my writing, my reading. I would not give that up, no matter the fact that I felt like crap. I was determined. And as I was reflecting on this, like, okay, I feel like crap. The environment in my body is not optimal. I am not at my best. And yet I am running this non-negotiable routine. And that taught me that I can trust myself to follow through on the things that are very important to me, even when the situation or the environment isn't ideal. That taught me that I can do it, that I have the ability to do it. I have the willpower to do it. This is something that I can do. So that's very interesting to me. And if you have been listening to the podcast, if you listen regularly, I have been reflecting on this 5 a.m. routine that I established last summer a lot, because it has taught me so much. And it has been such an interesting thing to me that I have been able to accomplish or establish this habit in my life when I've tried for over a decade to establish an early morning habit. And now I've done it. And I'm constantly reflecting on it because it is such a source of insight to me. I was reading in this behavioral science book that we learn about ourselves the same way we learn about others. And it is through our actions and then how we interpret those actions. So because I was on my bike at 5 a.m. with tissues stashed in my pocket so that I can blow my nose and then try to throw them into the trash can, as I was there, I was reflecting on, okay, this is the kind of willpower that I have. This is the kind of determination that I have. This is what I'm working with. I'm learning that, or I have learned that. And it was an incredible, incredible realization. So trusting yourself is a process, and you can help that by doing things intentionally and acknowledging things. Those are the two things that I'm going to give you, honestly. So make choices that you are intending to monitor your own follow through on. Do things that are like, okay, I'm choosing to do this, and I'm trusting myself to, I'm going to go out with friends, and I'm trusting myself to choose something healthy on the menu. I'm trusting myself to not order dessert. I'm trusting myself to move the conversation in a positive way. Whatever it is, whatever you're working on, put yourself in situations where you have to trust yourself, or where you get to trust yourself, and then follow through on that. And then kind of congratulate yourself. Like, look, I did it. I can trust myself because I followed through here. I also love to look back and think about times that I've trusted myself and it's worked out. There have been times where I have been, trying to exit the neighborhood or something. Maybe I need to go left. It's always when I need to go left, actually. And there's just so much traffic that I feel like I'm stuck here forever. I might as well just make this my new permanent address. This corner right here, I'm stuck here forever. And I say this in my head, I have never been stuck forever, ever. Not a single time. There's always an opening. It always works out. Sometimes I just choose to turn right and turn around later. Whatever it is, I can trust myself to get through this situation. Again, that's another kind of silly one. The more James Clear teaches this in his in his book, Atomic Habits, he talks about this. And he talks about how our habits actually grow based on repetitions. So the more often we do something, the more like points are in its favor, right? So if you can imagine two different jars and say like, trying to think of, okay, healthy eating, right? So if you've got a jar, like one is like, I eat healthy, and the other jar is, I eat like crap. Whenever you eat healthy, there's something, a coin, whatever it is, something goes into the I eat healthy jar. And whenever you eat unhealthily, something, a coin or whatever it is, goes into the unhealthy jar. Now, this is a object lesson, right? That I don't have jars for. But anyways, so when you build a habit and you are kind of figuring out or reestablishing your identity, you look at the jars that are mostly full or that have the most in them, right? Maybe not mostly full. They have the most in them. So if your jar of eating healthily has the most stuff in it, you're going to conclude that you're a healthy eater. And if your jar of I eat like crap has the most stuff in it, you're going to conclude that you don't eat well. That's how that works. It's the repetition. So if you can look at these jars and like, I trust myself, I let myself down, you've got these two jars. The more experiences and instances that you can put into the jar of I can trust myself, the more you will believe it, the more you'll actually be able to trust yourself. This is a really, really great object lesson because this is how habits are built. And trusting yourself is nothing but a habit, honestly. It's a really kind of intense one, but it's a habit. And the confidence that you go into when you go in or go in with when you go into a new situation or a new experience is based on your belief of your trust, the trust that you have in yourself. So think about it like that. This is really with any habit. Now, strongly have an early morning routine as part of my identity because I have done it so much. I think today was day 153, I think. And that's not consecutive. Like I said, I was sick, whatever. But I have done it since I started, since day one. I have gotten up at 4:45 or 4:35. I changed it to 4:35. Doesn't matter. Way more often than I haven't. And now this jar of being an early morning riser has way more stuff in it than this jar of I sleep in. Okay. So this works with exercise. Are you an exerciser? Do you work out? Which jar has the most stuff in it? Are you an artist? Which jar has the most stuff in it? Are you kind? Which jar has the most stuff in it? So think about that. Think about that as you work to trust yourself more, that any experience, no matter how silly or how little or whatever it is filling up this jar. And sure, you might think, oh, that's just a small object, but it adds, right? It totally adds and it will help. So think of the little things. Think of, I went to the grocery store and I only got what was on the list. Or I went to the grocery store and I didn't get anything that was bad for me. Or whatever it is. All of these things add up to how you perceive that you can trust yourself. And then that will translate into bigger things. That will translate into the goals that you want to pursue or the new environments or situations that you want to be in, because that is there for you. You will subconsciously look at this metaphorical jar and be like, okay, more often than not, I can trust myself. So I'm going to bank on being able to trust myself and go forward with that. All right. That was a fun episode. What a weird situation that was for me though, because usually I have an idea or two that I'm kind of batting around and I'm like, hey, this one, maybe this one. Well, if all else fails, I'll talk about this. But today I had nothing. Literally, strong armed me into this one because, like I said, I was like, well, you got anything else? Because that seems like I'm not qualified. And really, this is definitely one of those, it's a process things. You work on it, you add to the jar of being able to trust yourself incrementally, daily. And the more you can acknowledge that you can trust yourself, the faster that jar will seem to fill up. Because remember, what you focus on, that's what you see. That's what you perceive, like that's what you perceive. So focus on the instances that you have been able to trust yourself, and you'll start to see more of those. And that will help you fill up that jar and help you trust yourself, especially as you go towards bigger and more meaningful goals and things. All right, that's what I've got for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am grateful for you. Also, before I forget, I have started a new email list. And if you're already on my list, you've gotten this, you're already set, I bet. But if you aren't on my email list, I want you to look down into the notes of the podcast or the YouTube and find the link for my email list, because you guys, this is going to be so good. If you like the encouraging and motivational content that I give to you, I've got you covered on Fridays. I've had you covered on Fridays for 2 years. I now have you covered on Monday mornings, which is so exciting. And now I'm going to get you covered on Wednesday. 3 days out of the week, I will be there for you, encouraging you, cheering you on, loving you up. Be sure to go and subscribe. Very, very excited about this. I've been working on this all week, and there's so much goodness to come. I'm so excited about it. Thank you again. I love you. Until next time, bye for now.